Nicholas Taylor standing in the Great Parndon ward for the Harlow Alliance Party. Firstly, how's campaigning going?
Well, we've received a lot of positive responses from people on the doorstep, I have to say. We have been putting the question that you've been putting to other candidates about whether the Boris affair and Partygate will affect how they vote. That's about 50-50. Some people are still very angry about that. Others are not concerned at all about it. The biggest thing that's been spoken, which is not a local issue obviously, is about the cost of living. People are very worried about their gas and electricity bills and their food bills. And really the answer to that is that people are saying that it doesn't really matter which party is in nationally, it's a hard job to do. So on the doorstep, depends on where you are. Here we're near Bingham's, people are very concerned about what happened with the warehouse. Still a very touchy subject with people. Lots of houses now are lit up at night. We've been talking to people this morning, very concerned about that and very unhappy about the way the council dealt with all of that.
You take a great interest, and you have done over the years since the Harlow Alliance Party, on planning, on the developments in the town. And the person who said about the Binghams, which is just behind us, they said they've turned Catherine's into an industrial estate. I mean, could that have been prevented?
Well, we do know, because I asked the developer before they started. The developers actually wanted to build housing on that site. They were told by the council not even to bother asking for planning permission. There was more money in it for them to do that, so they were very anxious to do that. And clearly, if the council had thought a bit more ahead with the new research place just across the road from that development, people coming to Harlow would have had a house to buy very close to the development and could have then walked to work. As it is, we've now got hundreds of vehicles coming out of that development, clogging up the roads at certain times of the day, and clearly when the research place comes there's going to be even more cars in the Pinnacles area. So the bottom line is I think it could have been dealt with a lot better right from the beginning, before we got into even a planning application.
And as we're talking about planning things, and one of the things that again, that you were concerned about was the thing called the local plan, and specifically say the Stort and the crossings on the Stort. Again, from years ago, you felt Labour dealt with that dreadfully, didn't you?
Yes.
When they're running the administration.
Yes, I think really the lack of consultation throughout of the process of the Harlow and Gilston Garden Town was very poor. The Epping plan is still not been agreed yet. In fact, it's not come back from the planning inspector yet. But clearly that will have a very big effect on people living in the Catherine's ward or Catherine's area, with the prospect of 1,000 odd properties being built on their doorstep, some just about 10 feet from people's gardens. So yeah, we've been very conscious of all that issues, and they're not yet being concluded, of course.
So in the ward of Great Parndon, what were you going to gauge? Your vote has varied, hasn't it? From less than 200 up to 400. What are we going to gauge the success this time?
A win, basically. I'm the only candidate in the ward, living in the ward. My Labour candidate was actually the chair of the committee that agreed the Bingham's development. I'm not too sure why he thinks he could win this seat, and the Conservative candidate has never been a candidate, never been interested as far as I know in politics, and he doesn't live in the ward. I've been campaigning in the ward about a number of issues. We've got community right to bids on land within the district or within the ward. We've also staved the Deer Park grassed area from being developed with some 70 odd houses, and we're now faced with Pollard Hatch, where there's going to be 20 houses and people's homes and livelihoods are going to be destroyed as part of that.
And one thing, pre-COVID, you were having these meetings within wards, talking about different planning issues, weren't you? And was that sort of a hark back to a bygone era when there was far more consultation meetings, committee around, from Church Langley to Catherine's? Do you think those, irrespective of which political party in power, that should be brought back? Well,
the Conservatives have made a big thing about their consultation strategy, which they've just agreed a new strategy, which includes meeting the public. It'll be very interesting to see if that actually happens, but certainly yes, in the distant past, the communities and people had much closer contact with the council, could talk to their councillors on a regular basis, and even things like the notice board, which is just near here. We've been trying to find out who's got the keys to these council notice boards, and I have to say nobody in the council knows who they are, and therefore the signs in them are years old, and that should be all part of the way that people communicate with the council and vice versa.